Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Cooking Without Kidneys. I'm your host, Chef David Pollack, and today we're going to do some pan-seared salmon with cauliflower puree and a coffee bourbon glaze. So why coffee and bourbon? You know, you get the sweetness of the bourbon, the bitterness of the coffee. They really balance out each other very, very well. And we're of course going to be using instant coffee from Organo. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start with my cauliflower, because that's going to take the longest as far as simmering goes. We got about half a head of cauliflower, 1 cup of milk, and a couple tablespoons of butter. And we are literally going to let this sit here covered and steep in the milk. When it comes to salmon, okay, it's actually very, very easy to work with. It's one of the easiest fishes to skin. All right, you can actually take the skin off very easily because there's such a fat layer in between, it comes right off. All right. So we're going to take our salmon. Now, there are people who like to leave the skin on, that's fine. You could actually take your knife, scrape the skin, take off the scales, eat the skin. It is perfectly edible. I personally like taking the skin off. So what I like to do is I'll find a corner on the fat side because it's easier to start here. And you can see I could literally just use my thumb and it comes right off. I also like using a knife too. Now, if there's a little bit that gets left, mistakes will happen. This will all get saved, put into a freezer, and I'll actually use all this to make salmon cakes on a later date. So I got my side of salmon, and we want to cut this down, portion it out. Now, a lot of people do straight cuts. We could do that. You know, that would be about 4. I could get 3 or 4 portions out of this. I like angles. I like the way it looks. As you can see, makes it look a little bigger, a little wider. This is about 4-ounce portion, guys. All right. So our salmon is cut and ready to go. We're going to just let this sit for a moment with a little bit of Bragg's liquid amino on top of it just to give it a little salt. There we go. And that's actually going to bring out all the flavors from the salmon itself. Now we're going to get started on making our salmon glaze while this is sitting. So we have some coffee. We have our packet of black coffee. We're going to start off with that, getting that hot. 1 cup of water. One packet of black coffee. And we're going to let this come up to a full simmer. And we're going to start to heat this up. Once this comes up to a simmer, then we're going to add some mace, our pepper flakes, cinnamon. I also have my bourbon and maple syrup. This is going to be a very, very sweet glaze. We're not going to need a lot, but it's going to bring out all the flavors of everything else. I love maple syrup. If you haven't tried it, maple syrup and coffee, as odd as it may sound, tastes really good. That's our maple. And bourbon. We're now going to add our spices. We don't need a ton of red pepper flakes, we just need a little bit. Our mace. and our ground cinnamon. Guys, as this reduces, the whole thing is going to thicken and make a delicious glaze that's just going right over top of our salmon. This is going to be a delicious glaze that we're going to use on our salmon. It's going to complement the sweetness of the salmon as well as balance out the earthiness of our cauliflower. All right, now we got this pan nice and warm over here, and we're just going to use a little bit of olive oil. And salmon by itself does not take a long time to cook. So I've always been taught, and I still do it like this, presentation side always down. And that's the sound you want to hear when we put the salmon into the pan, is that nice sear. Now we could do this one of two ways. We could just take our time, sear off the salmon, give it a flip, and let it just finish here in our saute pan. Or we could actually take the entire pan, flip our salmon in it, plop it into our oven to finish the cooking process. It'll only take 7 to 10 minutes at most. Okay, now a lot of people are not sure when fish needs to get flipped. I always can tell by when you can start to see the edges themselves start to brown. You can see we got some really nice color coming through. Now we're just going to let this sit and cook for another few minutes. There's two things we could do. We could save the glaze for later and just put it over top. I like to cook the glaze right on the fish. I have it already mixed, right hot, ready to go. And we're just going to pour a little bit over top of each one. And you could just smell all the aromatics coming through this. Okay, I did not, and as you saw, I didn't have to use all of it. I can let the rest of it reduce and just use it as a garnish. All right, let's take a quick look at our cauliflower, see where we're at. Our cauliflower definitely needs a couple more minutes. Still a little hard, so we're going to just let that cook. We're going to let our glaze reduce, and then we'll be ready to go. So let's check our cauliflower again. Yeah, we are just soft enough, so we're just going to get this in and puree it. Oh, look at that, and our glaze, as you can see, it's thickening up real nice. And this is a puree, guys, so it doesn't have to be super thick. We're not trying to do a mash out of it or anything of that nature. All right, there we go. As you can see, it's a little bit thinner. I'm not looking for that super thick, almost mash consistency. For this, I really just want that nice thin puree. Give it a quick taste. The cauliflower puree is just going to be a nice light glaze on the bottom of the plate. Okay, our glaze is ready to go and our salmon is fully cooked. So to plate this, we're going to do a little cauliflower puree right in the bottom, just like that. This is our salmon that we actually cooked down in a glaze. And that's going right across the middle. And are nicely reduced. Now you can tell when this glaze is done by how it coats the back of a spoon. Okay, see how it's got a nice coat on it? It's nice and thick. A little bit of parsley. And enjoy. We have our cauliflower puree, seared salmon with our coffee bourbon maple glaze. Enjoy. Okay guys, now it's time to make some panna cotta, a traditional Italian dessert. So we're going to start with 2 cups of heavy cream and 1 cup of milk. We got about a 1/4 cup of sugar that we're going to add to this also, and we're just going to put everything in here to let it kind of cook down and dissolve. and of course, a couple teaspoons of vanilla. So while this is coming up to temp, have a little warm water here. This is what we're going to use to thicken. This is just gelatin, okay? In medieval times, gelatin was actually made out of bones. It's not a reduction out of pork bones like it used to be. So we're going to add 1 packet of gelatin to 2 tablespoons of water. I'm just going to whip this in to dissolve. There we go. That is ready to go. We're just going to set that aside. As we have our cream coming up. And that's the thing, guys, we just want to warm this through. Okay, so we have our heavy cream, milk, and sugar and vanilla nice and warm. We're just going to add our packet of gelatin. Now, as you can see, even just mixing it with the water became nice and thick. We're going to give this a couple of minutes, and then we're going to divvy it into our containers. Now, the thing about panna cotta is this is not something that we can make instantly. Okay, you can't make it for dessert the same day. So this is just about ready to go. So we're going to take this okay, and as you can see, we have enough here to make 4 to 6 full panna cotta. We're going to take this and we're going to pop this over into our fridge. I'm just going to put this to the side for now because we have a couple that are already that we did yesterday specifically for today. Check this out. So we got 2 different kinds here. We made one using our Organo black coffee. So we have a nice coffee panna cotta. We also have our plain vanilla here. And personally, we're going to serve this with fresh berries. Now, we could have pureed the berries into the panna cotta, strained the whole thing. I just like the look and the taste of fresh berries on top with everything. So we're just going to put a couple fresh berries in here. And that's what we call dessert. Enjoy. Thank you guys for joining us today on Cooking Without Kidneys. I had a blast making one of my favorite salmon dishes, the coffee bourbon glaze, as well as making panna cotta from scratch with you guys. Join us next time when we take a trip south of the border with our pernil, making some Ecuadorian style arepas and cotija cheese. Enjoy until next time, guys. Have a great day.